So, Johan, tell me, how has it been to develop the inRiver PIM software this past year?
Oh, it's been interesting, but the good thing, we have a very passionate team, and I think we're very digitally savvy, so all that has worked really, really well. You need to learn a new way of communicating, and it is harder to get things done quickly. I think we saw that last week when we met, and we had allocated 90 minutes for meetings, and the 90-minute slot was actually only needed to be 25 minutes because we were done after 25. And I think that's like what you get when you have that human interaction and dynamic in a room, which you have a hard time getting to when you're on Teams or Zoom. So yes, I'm really happy that we're back and can meet in person, but it's worked really, really well to work virtual as well.
Because we're here to hear Johan Boström, the Chief Product Officer of inRiver, to hear his vision keynote, Killing the Catalog. And I can imagine you developing this vision and now getting it out to the organization and to everyone here has been a challenge over this past, during the pandemic. But as you say, the 90 minutes to 25 minutes makes it a lot easier.
It does. I hope that next year that we can all meet again in a physical, real world and enjoy the company of each other too, because that's hard doing virtual.
Well, we all enjoy your company, Johan, so take your keynote away.
Thank you, Mats. Thank you. So, being Swedish, I will take the liberty to use some Swedish examples, as they are very, very close to my heart. And I will talk a little bit about taxonomy, which is the practice of the science of categorization and classification. And the guy on the screen is Carl Linnaeus, also known as Carl von Linné. Some of you might have heard of him. He was a Swedish biologist and is often called the father of taxonomy. And his system for naming, ranking, and classifying organisms is still in wide use today. His type of classification makes a lot of sense when you, like him, want to systematize plants and animals. And Linné's taxonomic system, it has 8 levels in its hierarchy to make it precise enough to correctly classify all living things. Another good example of a taxonomy is the Dewey Decimal System. That is the way libraries classify nonfiction books by division and subdivisions. And these deep and very precise structures work well in an environment where the sender of the information, in this case a biologist or a librarian, can rely on that the receiver of the information, which is also a biologist or a librarian, knows and interprets the taxonomic system in the same way. So why am I mentioning this? What has this to do with catalogs, commerce, and PIM? Has Mr. Boström gone bonkers? Well, maybe. So let's find out. So let's look at another Swedish example, a little closer to today's topic, maybe even more well-known than Linné's classification system, actually. IKEA published its first catalog in 1951 and distributed about 285,000 copies into southern Sweden. At its peak in 2013, 208 million copies of the catalog were distributed in 69 different versions and 32 languages to more than 50 countries. That is more than double the number of Bibles printed in the same period, and the catalog consumed about 70% of IKEA's annual marketing budget. However, the 2021 edition will be the last. So if you were planning on recycling your 2021 IKEA catalog, remember that it might become a collector's item worth holding on to in the future. Finding what you are looking for in a catalog with hundreds of pages and tens of thousands of products can be really challenging. The challenge of finding the right product is due to that the sender, in this case the collective minds of IKEA's marketing department, will categorize things differently than the receiver, that is, the customer. Static and deep catalog hierarchies were never really effective, but we had nothing to compare with before Google and other tools came around. Today, the receiver, that is the customers, have seen and experienced better ways of finding what they are looking for. Still, many sellers are hiding products from customers in deep and static hierarchies. Static hierarchies or taxonomies are often very elaborate and thought through, but they are still creating a rift between the customer and the seller. The static catalog concept is still the most common way to organize an assortment, but now in the form of a digital catalog. And it is time that we stop treating digital engagement points as catalogs. Although a catalog, a printed catalog, has its merits, the concept is far from optimal for digital engagement points. The catalog in its digital form is better than flipping back and forth through hundreds of pages, but it does not take advantage of the power and freedom that digital brings. It is high time to unchain the products from the static catalog structure and create customer-optimized assortments instead. So let me give you 3 examples of static taxonomies that are similar but still very different. Let's say I'm a buyer looking for headphones for my iPhone. From the example, you can see that 3 different retailers have placed the product under 3 different taxonomies. How am I to know where to find them? As each retailer has their own idea on where to best place the products, I must guess my way through the hierarchy. The static catalog taxonomy is obviously not the best way to structure an assortment. It is not dynamic, it cannot adapt to each customer's need and not to their intent. Website navigation lends itself to browsing and is more commonly used overall than search. Customers tend to use website navigation to get more information about the products a merchant is offering. This is obvious, as most people don't know precisely what they're looking for when visiting a website. This is a tidbit. Women are statistically more likely than men to use the navigation. No surprises here, websites that lack good navigation also suffers reduced conversions and lost revenue as a result. In my previous example, I showed 3 static taxonomies where I had headphones for iPhones hidden deep in the structure. In this case, a guided selling approach would be far superior. Guided selling can be built up using both facets and filters. So filters and faceted navigation are unfortunately often used interchangeably. Although related, these concepts have essential differences. Filters exclude results based on initial criteria and do not change with each search, while facets exclude the properties from returned results and change with each search. Filters and facets exist to serve the same purpose, narrowing down the result by eliminating products or content that don't match the selected criteria, thus guiding the customer as a good salesperson would. Faceted navigation, while very flexible and powerful, is more challenging to create and maintain, especially if we want to assist different customers with different intents and needs. The search engine is often responsible for rendering the navigation, and the powerful searchandising engine will optimize both facets and filters depending on the customer's behavior and history. However, it is an engine, and as an engine, it needs unchained and constantly optimized data and content to be effective. Customers generally use site search in the late stage of a sales funnel. These are often the customers who know what they want, often even the specific product name or item number. This behavior is widespread amongst repeat customers and also in B2B scenarios. As a tidbit again, men are more statistically likely to use the search bar. And search, or site search, is often forgotten, or in the best case, doesn't get too much attention. But the data shows that optimizing your site search can have a massive impact on your conversions and revenue. In studies, only 15% of website visitors use the site search function. But here's the kicker. They make up a staggering 45% of the revenue. Why is that? Probably because they already know what they're looking for. They were ready to buy. Additionally, 68% of the users say they wouldn't return to a website with poor internal site search. Yet, up to 84% of companies don't even bother optimizing this function. And optimizing it might not be hard, actually. Using a feedback loop and prescriptive guidance to automate the process that feeds the search engines with optimized data and content on your own sites as well as third-party sites. And now, with inRiver Evaluate, this is actually pretty simple. So let's look at what a greatly simplified version of the Shannon-Weaver model for communication looks like, putting it into the context of commerce. Content and data is created by the seller, managed in the PIM system, published to the commerce engagement points to be presented to the buyers. This is an effective way of producing and maintaining large amounts of data and content while keeping the entropy low and thus the quality high. However, there's a constant shift in what the customers require. Competitors, marketplaces, and other actors are constantly raising the bar. Thus, we need to keep track to know what we need to do to stay ahead of the competition. Measuring the content performance, what we call engagement intelligence, is especially important when selling via retailers, distributors, and marketplaces, as our visibility depends to 100% on our data and our content. That content optimization through engagement intelligence is extra important for Amazon, a Home Depot, a Walmart, or a Tesco. It does not mean that we should not do the same for our own engagement points, our own commerce initiatives, and so forth. This feedback loop must optimize all content, not just the data. Digital assets are often more important to customers than the data. People are probably more likely to look for a shoe that looks good than looking for a shoe with a specific material composition. Images are also an important tool for navigation, especially in the search results. In this case, optimizing the images in the search result becomes very important. If we can measure that shoes should have pictures taken from the right side pointing to the right, we need to update the images and choose the right one. It's a very daunting task if you have many products. This is where machine learning can help by automatically tagging images by direction and profile. It can then automate the task of choosing and flipping the images. This also opens the ability to present different images in different categories too. In our roadmap session, we will give you a glimpse into how this can be used in practice. A/B testing content might not be the first on the e-commerce manager's mind. In many cases, the focus is on choosing the customer experience and commerce platforms. However, very few customers think about the platform they are interacting with, because they are interacting with the content. So if we test what content that drives conversion, we know what content to produce to drive revenue. In that way, we also increase the value of the investment in these CX and commerce platforms. Buyers and shoppers come to us with different needs and intent. Some might be looking to buy new equipment. Others are looking for parts, consumables, and accessories and to their existing equipment. Maybe they even want to order a service technician. A customer looking to buy new equipment is most likely interested in a different set of information than an existing customer looking to service already existing equipment. So not only do we need to guide them to quickly find the right products with facets, filters, and search to find what they're looking for, but we also need to adapt the product detail pages to better suit their different needs. If we do this, we will sell more and we will build stronger long-term relationships. And this is why we continue to enhance our elastic data model, to give you unlimited possibilities to service your customers in the best way possible, wherever they interact with you, thus unchaining the product content. To help me put all this into perspective, I'm joined by Andy Peebler, VP of Product Go-to-Market at Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Welcome, Andy, and thanks for joining. So, Andy, you heard my presentation. So what's your take on unchaining the content?
Well, that's a great question, Johan, and thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all of your participants for giving me some time today. Over the past couple of years, we've seen commerce and digital accelerate at a pace that, frankly, none of us, even those who've been in the industry for a long time, have ever seen before. And whether you're from retail or other industries that maybe haven't traditionally adopted commerce quite as fast as before, everybody's pressured to do more and more and more with their digital experience. And oftentimes, especially today, that means taking digital techniques, tactics, content, information, and spreading that out across all of your channels. So commerce has moved well beyond the website, well beyond mobile apps, into how you execute your day-to-day business. So for retailers this past year, that's meant introducing things like curbside pickup, buy online, pickup in store, with a lot more capabilities than they might have contemplated before. In some cases, we see retailers launching totally new products and totally new business motions in other geographies based on what their needs of customers are at that time. And the only way that kind of a rapid scale and pace can work is if all of your content and services from a digital perspective are available, reliable, they work together, and you can spin them up in all of these new and exciting ways. Outside of retail, it's even been more exciting, arguably, for the past couple of years, where you've seen whole industries like healthcare and automotive completely re-envision their customer processes from the ground up, how they support B2B participants as well as consumer shoppers. With Volkswagen, for example, in Brazil, we've just launched a whole new car buying experience, which brings their dealers front and center and digital, helping customers buy cars online, but then of course receive that great handoff with their dealers and service. The only way Volkswagen can deliver on that kind of a high scale, omni-channel, robust experience is with great services that are easy to integrate across every channel.
Unchaining the data and content from static taxonomies and constantly optimizing it via a feedback loop is foundational and must be put in place before we can feed the hungry engines that run on data and content. Commerce engines, search engines, and merchandising engines need optimized content that creates trust in enough quantity to adapt to a different customer's need and intent. However, unchaining the data and content, making it flexible and easy to adapt to each customer is not enough. We also need modular, elastic tech stack that we can quickly orchestrate to fit any need. Just like the content and data, it must be constantly updated and optimized. Thus, it should be based on microservices. Microservices are individual pieces of business functionality that are independently developed, deployed, and managed. In other words, it must be delivered as a true multi-tenant software as a service application. This is what Salesforce's founder and CEO sometimes calls the false cloud, when we deploy old monolithic software just running in someone else's server. Because that doesn't cut it. It must be a multi-tenant SaaS solution based on microservices. And today, the software stack for commerce has become a composable stack. And to quote Gartner, digital commerce platforms are experiencing ongoing modularization in a cloud-native multi-experience world. Application leaders responsible for digital commerce should prepare for a composable approach using packaged business capabilities to move forward to future-proof digital commerce experience. This approach is sometimes referred to as mock architecture and is a set of technology principles behind new best-of-breed technology platforms. The acronym MOC stands for microservices-based, API-first, cloud-native, and headless. At inRiver, we are laser-focused in developing our platform to support the composable stack and be a great citizen in the composable ecosystem. And we don't do this in a vacuum, but rather together with the friends and partners in our ecosystem. So let's hear what some others have to say about unchaining the data, content, the composable commerce stack, and the role of PIM in that stack. So to help me better explain the value of the composable stack, I have the great pleasure of being joined by Michael Schultz, Global Director of Product Marketing at Commercetools. Welcome, Michael. So what is the right way to measure the value of a composable stack? Can you put a dollar number on it?
Certainly, Johan. We get that question quite a lot because for a lot of merchants, it's really hard to assign a dollar value or put a dollar value to what composable commerce really means and the approach respectively. The way I look at it is in three distinct themes. The first one is the commercial benefit and the commercial value. You have to understand that you're no longer paying maintenance fees. You're not paying upgrade fees. You're not overpaying for unused modules by truly selecting a best of breed solution. And that really means you're paying for what you really use instead of paying exorbitant license fees and worrying about additional integration and customization fees. Secondly, it's all about business value. Historically, it was all about the power struggle between business and IT. It's really about the technology being an enabler of business, not an inhibitor. It's all about freedom and flexibility. The business can drive feature development independently from IT. So being able to develop and roll out a new feature without aligning to code freezes and sprint schedules is very liberating. The third part is the value of technology. It's really about the agility to roll out new features, new sites, new markets, geographies, and new touch points. And to do all of that without redeploying the entire stack. True benefits of being truly cloud native, such as autoscaling, and really understanding the concept of being in the cloud versus on the cloud. Being truly cloud native means also that you can take advantage of your investments and trainings and enablements in your workforce. You're likely able to develop in your preferred programming language, where before you had to learn proprietary programming languages and were operating in a black box. No customizations, because a composable tech stack is designed and flexible by nature to the respective business needs. It doesn't need to be customized to fit an all-in-one solution. And lastly, it's also about owning your data. These are your customers, your orders, your data points. It's your data. Vendors in the truly composable tech stack process your data, but don't hold it hostage. Previously, you were locked into a black box, and as soon as you left that vendor, it was quite cumbersome to get your data out. So it's really all about understanding what you need and what you use, and really leverage that set of functionality and consume the parts of the platform you really need.
I started this session by talking about why we need to stop looking at product content through the lens of the static catalog and static taxonomies. We then put this into the mindset of the buyer and shopper and how important findability and visibility is in the buying journey. To make this journey enjoyable and frictionless, we need to constantly measure the effectiveness of our content to optimize it in different ways to support a frictionless buying experience for new customers as well as repeat customers. And it all comes together when we apply these concepts in a best-in-breed composable tech stack. We've heard some good examples about the value of unchaining the content from our friends at Commercetools and Salesforce, and the value of unchaining the underlying tech stack with the best-in-breed composable approach. Andy from Salesforce talked about the need for unchained product content across the broader ecosystem, from Salesforce Commerce Cloud, Revenue Cloud, Service Cloud, and beyond. Our vision of the future is being the foundational tool at the heart of the composable ecosystem, providing prescriptive insights based on the data that we gather from the channels in a feedback loop. So please join us for our roadmap sessions.
Yes, Johan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great session. So I believe everybody must have loved this vision for the future, long and short. But when can you hear more about sort of the nuts and bolts of this? Well, when is the roadmap session?
When is the roadmap session? Yes. Well, we will get to the meat of the roadmap session first for partners on October 19th. It's at 4 o'clock CET. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, Central Daylight Time. And then for customers on Wednesday, October 20th, on also 4 o'clock CET and 9 o'clock CDT.
And how do you get an invitation?
Well, I hope that most have already actually received an invitation. But if you haven't, go to our website or talk to your partner manager or talk to your customer success manager, and they will help you get an invitation to our roadmap sessions.
Thank you so much, Johan. Thank you for taking the time, and also thank you for giving us your vision for the future.
Thank you, Mats.